All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Fruits Basket, Season 3, Episode 7.
Last episode.
I'm worried, Caleb.
Yeah. They had a mother of all twists here that we're setting up for Kyo and Toru. Yes.
Yeah, and maybe also the daddy of all twists. Yeah. So we both characters had little bits of revelations, it seemed, and regarding things that could cause emotional damage, as it were. And right in the middle of what could have been what was almost a love confession.
Yeah. This is just really awesome. We're in a really great setup here for a powerful episode.
Exactly. It's been W's so far this season, and that's going to continue. That is not going to be stopped, interrupted, or braked, or put on hold.
See, you got to channel what I'm channeling here, my man. It's something that really gets exciting when you think about how these characters will grow and develop, because now we're getting everything out into the light. Kyo is having memories that were repressed being brought back up. Toru is now confronting all sides of herself. And we'll get to talk about it. We'll have also the characters get to talk about it.
Yes.
And they'll have to find a way to have a 23-ish minute episode of anime where it's not all going to be that.
Right.
So here we go. Yeah. Y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone. Now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below. Then come back here for the discussion. There it is.
I had a feeling that this episode was going to be a bit of a doozy because of how the previous one ended, but I did not expect this.
I don't think we had even the slightest clue that we were going to get so much Akito and Ren focus. The focus being on Akito's father and Ren's husband in that regard, though.
That's good. We needed that.
Well, right, but it was a cool way to bring up the subject of death in a lot of ways.
Sure.
And saying goodbye and bonds being broken. And thus having it also be in the same episode where we lost Kureno is a hell of a thing. I am impressed with this show to hit us so sideways by a death like Kureno's and have it work so well.
Yeah, and there are a few reasons why I think it works that we'll get into as we go through the episode, but one of the things that I just want to point out, and that it did kind of feel weird that Akito hadn't killed anyone yet. To me,
it did,
like especially when it came to when she pushed Rin off the balcony, right?
Yeah, that was like an attempted murder.
Right, that was an attempted murder where Rin got lucky, right? So I feel like it makes sense in the story to have a point where Akito does that and is successful, right?
And it's the final season, so let's
it's the final season, so it's right. This is the perfect place to do it, because this is also a way to reinforce just how broken of a person Akito is, because it could be very easy to sort of gloss over that because we understand how Akito got to be this way. We see Ren and all of this stuff and whatnot.
Well, and Akito has a lot of agency. She's a character that's very powerful, not just in the standpoint of the relationship dynamics, but also in terms of the literal influence on the plot via so many characters that listen and do what she says.
Yeah. So okay.
Right.
We're
reeling from that. On the general front, though, we continued a little bit with the Kyo-Toru stuff.
Right.
Kyo went into a little bit of a state here. He got a little bit manic, and thus isolated himself a bit and had a little bit of time to kind of try and process this.
Right.
But he is now reeling from what I believe to be a form of guilt regarding the loss of two people who were sort of mothers in his life.
Right. I will say.
While one of them was definitely not his mother, but maybe was a better mother to him than even his mother, the idea that his influence and his decisions hurts people around him.
Yep.
Reinforced by his curse, but also the fear of what he could do to Toru.
Exactly.
Is palpable here.
Yeah, that sets it up wonderfully, and I gotta say, this is something that I really appreciate. If you're going to bring up something like that, and potentially have reveals and new information as the characters realize things and whatnot,
right,
and then cut away from it, that can kind of feel like a breach of trust of like, wait, hold on, we were going to get into that.
Yeah.
But then, oh, hey, at the end of the episode, we go back to that place where it's these characters are then going to probably talk, have some, yes, there might be a love confession, but if there's any obstacles to that love confession, that will probably come to the surface. Right. So it doesn't feel like the the place that the previous episode left off at was like in any way forgotten, right?
Yeah,
so
it feels like an adaptation choice for the anime.
Oh,
in
sure.
That this is something where it probably wasn't structured this way through the actual like source material.
Okay.
I'd say it's probably going to be like a little bit different, but adaptations be adaptations. But I think they were trying to go for something with the idea of bonds being something that are inevitably going to break, because at some point you end up saying goodbye, not just because of,
put a knife
things
in their
going
back,
out, but death as well. And given that Kyo is burdened by these two deaths, this is something that carries with him. In some ways, they never left his side, very much a la, Akito with Akira. Yeah.
Right. So the two stories are very thematically relevant, in addition to potentially having actual overlap and influence on each other.
And obviously Akito is the center point for all the Soma drama here, but now we got a little bit more into the why.
I gotta
Akira.
say, Akira.
Yeah.
So this, I like how this episode felt like it. It kind of felt like a very normal Fruits Basket episode from the respect of, hey, we essentially have had these new characters. Right. Let's give a focus episode to that, right? Both to Akira, the person that we haven't really met, but like we know that they're around, and
We've
then
seen
Ren,
their effects,
and then Ren, who's been a much bigger character in the show,
and she's been officially introduced,
right? Officially introduced. So let's actually get to know the exact situation, even though we've gotten a sense of it from afar, right?
Yeah.
So here we get an episode.
This is how they met.
This is
why they got close together. This is why they fell in love. And this is why Akito is the way she is.
Right.
Okay.
And also potentially the exit stage left for Ren from the story. Because
We'll see. We'll see. She's still alive.
But like this could theoretically be her conclusion of a sorts. And
maybe. I doubt it though.
I feel like we could
of Shigure.
Yeah, we can still get more stuff with it, but I feel like it's for the most part wrapped up. It's like you still put the bow on it, but it's in the package, right?
But I think that's more with regards to just a specific dynamic between Akito and Ren.
Sure.
So let's bring up Akira here. He was the previous Zodiac god.
Right.
He was very much... He was very much, I would say...
Well...
Now, can I actually bring up something here? Is it 100% obvious that he was the previous Zodiac god?
I'm not sure that it's 100%, but
it seems like it's being implied that because
but I believe it is at the very least confirmed that Akira was the previous head of the Soma family, so I feel like it would make sense for them to be the previous god.
Yeah, that's basically a 1-to-1 thing that I've taken the and compromise. That's why they can't. There's the heir to consider, and I feel like with regards to heir, let's move all the magic stuff out of this. That's literally head of the Soma estate heir related stuff there. So. Probably the god. There's a vibe potentially I got of him actually being the rat And that was basically the vengeance, if you will, that Akito was talking about, of getting to be close to.
Yeah. Yuki.
Yeah.
It did feel like it could be something where it's not just I have someone near me, but like someone that might remind Ren of her husband. I feel like we know that the zodiacs don't all have to exist at the same time. I feel like it would be kind of strange if the god ever didn't exist at a point in time, because then there'd be zodiacs without a god,
Right.
But the fact that Akira was so lonely, I could see that being because there weren't a lot of zodiacs maybe at the time, because a lot of the zodiacs that we know now are ones that...
Well, they're all really young.
They're all really young, with like Shigure and that trio being like the oldest, right?
So maybe the others were just older.
Sure, but
so they're all like invalids. They're not able to get out of their homes,
or maybe there just aren't many right now.
They're just dead.
Yeah, like maybe when the two of them meet, it's like, oh yeah, there's these three young kids that are like the next stage of zodiacs. But maybe for the most part, Akira's been kind of the lonely god, basically, without zodiacs, without the bonds and all that stuff. And so
the bonds are across massive age gaps.
Right. Something where there's a lot of distance there, and then that's why when Ren comes in, she can see that he's super lonely, and she's able to help him out there.
Yeah.
It did give kind of a vibe that Ren was like, it kind of seemed like Ren was just bad from the get-go. Kind of like she seemed very like potentially manipulative and utilitarian, and like I'll get close to this person,
I think it's a bit tricky here, because there's an aspect of Ren that I feel like they're trying to draw a parallel with Kureno.
Oh,
I think they're trying to bring the vibe
Okay.
that Ren here showed pity to Akira, but didn't actually genuinely love him.
Sure. Okay.
She, in some ways, was possessive of the idea of this person is weak and lonely and scared.
And I will make them mine, kind of.
And I will basically make myself the most valuable thing to them.
Right.
So that they will have, like, I will have them to myself. The way she kind of describes their relationship felt very... very one-sided.
Right, like it's we don't really get much from Akira and his feelings on the matter. That could just be because, hey, she's the one telling the story, so she's gonna definitely have a much better understanding of her own feelings than necessarily the other person's.
Right.
And if she's a selfish, obsessive type person, she might not care as much about the other person's feelings as long as she's sort of the priority number one.
Yeah, I also feel like there's a potential here that by omitting a lot of Akira's thoughts and feelings, or just not bringing them up, like showing a perspective of his outside of the final encounter with Akito, it makes us kind of have to question these kinds of things. And maybe by having Ren be so certain, we have to, like, kind of go, Ren, was it really that way?
Right, because Ren obviously isn't the most stable person, so when she's recounting this story, it's like, okay, maybe take things with a grain of salt.
And and also, obviously, like, this is not her, like recounting it to any one person specifically. Like, this is something that is done for the, audience, like...
Right. Yeah, she might talk about little bits with Shigure, but it's not going to be in the same kind of detail of like, this is how we met, and
Right. She's just thinking about this.
Right.
And so we get to see it. So it's a bit of a pseudo first person perspective.
And as a result of that, it's definitely going to be colored with her own perspectives and perceptions and things like that. One of the things that I thought was kind of curious, though, is that the reason why she hated Akito was jealousy, basically, right?
Yeah.
Now, she was shown to be kind of obsessive from the get-go, which is a little bit of a deviation from Fruits Basket's usual thing of, like, showing how people get hurt. And I guess you have to stop that at some point, right? Because then you'd have Ren's backstory and who hurt her and, and who hurt them and, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But, like... I'm curious to see how I'm curious about the extent to which whatever her situation was maybe was exacerbated by the fact that she ended up getting married to Akira and had this whole very particular situation, because to be jealous of your own child doesn't feel normal.
No, of course. Like, because she had an unhealthy obsession with Akira.
Right.
She wanted someone, I think, that she could basically have that fantasy relationship where it's I'm the most important thing to them. And it's like, well, yeah, but kids feel jealous of their other siblings when the new baby gets born. And they're like, I was the first one, I was the only one, or I was the...
Am I going to be replaced?
Am I going to be replaced? Yeah, those are natural feelings, but they come and go. The idea that hers stuck around.
Sure, and maybe that's kind of the lesson that she didn't learn, is that to have a feeling of like, oh, am I going to be replaced by this child? It's especially since everyone seems to love it so much already when it hasn't even been born yet.
Yeah.
Well, if she had been able to, say, let go of that and be like, okay, all right, no, it's going to be fine, then everything could have gone great, but she wasn't. And maybe that's also why her and Shigure are such a good match for each other, with very big air quotes there. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, bringing this up, the idea of pity again. Shigure brings that up as well when they're talking about Ren, because this fun thing of having the kids be like, so what's going on? Like, is Ren bad? It's like, what is this? And it's the thing of, well, she should be pitied. Again, the thing that Kureno did to Akito, then Shigure sleeping with her kind of as like a vengeance thing, getting under Akito's skin, but also maybe a pitying her, or maybe just a thing that he did to kind of just fuck with the whole situation and gain a
it literally was that.
Yeah, well, gain basically someone that he could then manipulate later for future stuff. Who knows? But then also that Akira was someone that Ren pitied, didn't necessarily genuinely love, thus ended up really turning on Akira in a lot of ways by resenting the decision that Akira made to treat Akito as more important than her, but can't hate Akira, thus she over fixates on how Akito is nothing, and just a toy,
and not even seeing what it, seeing the idea that Akira was hoping to, hey, even if I'm not going to be around, at least you'll have our child, right? Yeah. And that was something that was not at all a boon for Ren, right? In fact, she saw it as kind of a curse, if you will. It's... This family situation is so complicated and so messed up that I'm left reeling, basically, because there's a part of me where I'm like, I feel like I still don't fully understand how it started. I can only guess as to how it's going to end, but shit's happening, and maybe that's not really saying anything, but
yeah. Do you want to talk about Shigure now?
Sure.
Yeah, Shigure goes over through the place and ends up getting encountered by Ren. And this feels like something where Shigure didn't necessarily intend to speak to Ren.
Yeah, like she definitely reached out for him, but at the same time, he ended up manipulating her in this scene and then getting her to do something. So maybe, he walked by thinking that, she'll probably...
Well, that's the thing. She wasn't at her usual spot. He's saying, did you slip away from your servants again so you can just go strolling around
That's
on your own?
Right.
She's not in her usual spot.
That's right.
So he's kind of blindsided by this, but I think he ends up trying to start his thing there by
that
mentioning
reminds
the box.
Me. Yeah, so maybe it was something where it's like, I had been wanting to do this eventually anyways.
Right.
Opportune moment. Why not? And I gotta say, the way that Shigure decides to manipulate her is devious, but I'm shocked at its effectiveness, because them hooking up feels like it was very obviously them both wanting vengeance against Akito, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, you know,
And they both got something out of it.
Right, and it had nothing to do with the actual relationship, probably.
Nope.
But he understands her well enough and how she ticks and everything.
She's really simple.
Because she's very simple.
Very vocal and simple and straightforward. Shigure keeps like 7 onions underneath the original, above the original onion layer.
Right, with each of them having layers. And
yeah.
So I applaud his keikaku dorying, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, because he's improving here. I think this was something where we reveal that he did tell her essentially to go take the box from her. And it's like, so okay, this could instigate basically a further breaking of the curse for everybody. And then he's like, no, I didn't necessarily want you to do that. And she's like, oh, I'm afraid it failed. And this would be so much easier if you just brought it to me yourself. And he just kind of goes, oh, what? No, I don't want to do that. It feels blasphemous somehow.
Right.
And she's like, well, yes, it would be. And in some ways, I love that he's like trying to build up in her mind again by bringing up Akira in that way of this like revered thing. So that she kind of falls even more into the obsession, reminding her of, oh yeah, you remember? Akira's perfect. He's infallible. Is just
right. It's something where like with Ren having this kind of strong response, it's the kind of thing where I find myself wanting to see that little bit more to show not that she had a problem and it went bad, but like the things that could have seemed innocuous or not a big deal or whatever that end up like making this worse. You know, the kinds of things like with Kyo's mom where she tries to love him and everything, but she's in denial of the fact that she's terrified of her child that's a monster, so that it ends up getting worse and then she ends up killing herself, right? Yeah. As opposed to if she had just, say, like, hated him from the get-go, you know?
But the episode more focuses on this thing with Shigure here where he's now realizing, oh, I've got her. Right. And he says, no, well, he doesn't say anything. She says, I'm the only one worthy to own anything to do with Akira-san. And I love this fact that we're focusing on him here because... Do you know what he's thinking right now? I think I know what he's thinking right now.
What?
What is the only thing left in this world that has something to do with Akira?
Akito.
Yeah. And she says, I'm the only one worthy to own anything to do with Akira-san.
Oh, and he's like...
And he's just like, nah, bitch, you thought.
Yeah, right.
I think he's literally looking at her like, oh... You have no idea. It feels like you do not understand me at all, but I understand you perfectly.
Well, because they're so similar is the thing.
But that's the thing. I don't think that really they're...
Shigure has a better handle on it for sure.
Well, right. But I think that's the thing, is that Shigure actually has a handle on it at all.
Right.
The idea that he is absolutely focused on Akito is its own thing. But the fact that from her perspective, she's so completely lost in the past of this whole thing. I mean, that she's the one with the curse in some ways.
Yes.
She projects even onto him that like, oh, you don't even love that child. That's a fantasy. That's literally her projecting there. Obviously, he can't really, because of the curse, probably have a true bond with any of like any of the Soma. Well, not any of the Somas, because it's not a spider web to connect to all of them. It's just connected to Akito. So yeah, you can't have a normal relationship with Akito at all because of the curse. Like it's going to be influenced by that. But you could theoretically, I would guess so, have actual feelings of love
for Ren,
for Akito.
Sure.
You probably could.
I mean, yeah. It's it's not. I feel like it's not a question of whether you could. It's the question of there always being doubt of which is which, right?
Oh, right, exactly. But the idea that she's like, no. Like it's all a fantasy. Is like, well, wait a minute. But aren't you the one living in the past, holding on to a thing that doesn't exist anymore?
Well, right. And she's also the one that's convincing herself that she's different.
Right. That she's special.
Yeah, so
because
it's
what they had was so special.
Right, like... Yeah.
Yeah.
They... I feel like this is one of those episodes that I'm going to be stewing on for a while.
Yeah, they gave us so much.
They gave us a lot. And like just the fact that after all of this, right? She hates Akito. She's obsessed with Akira even after his death. Which, by the way, even if she's a horrible parent and everything, the idea that she wasn't able to be there for the death of her husband, that's fucked. Like,
well, I mean, yeah, that's gonna hurt a lot,
right?
For
and
sure.
and regardless of whether it was actually because of circumstances or just because this is one of the ways that Akito was like, well, I can get back at you this way, bitch, you know, which still ties back to her own actions and things like that. So there's a poetic nature to it, but at the same time, shit.
But I love that Shigure kind of gets to kind of be like have his shut up bitch moment here, because she's going through all this stuff here, berating his relationship with Akito.
Right.
And in some ways, condescending at this point to then try and make a point about how he needs her. And he stops talking throughout this whole thing.
Well, and he stops smiling, too.
Well, yeah, he's not smiling.
Yeah.
But then when she touches him, she kind of does the, okay, now, give yourself to me. And he, first thing he does is put his hands up to
take her hands away.
No.
Uh-huh.
But then he baits her with the, oh, yes, looking at you gives me a rush of affection. Then I find myself wondering if she would have resembled you if allowed to live as a girl. Like, this is basically the...
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
He's leading her up to the cliff before pushing her off. Like,
right.
And the thing is...
That's my fantasy.
Right. There's a part of me that wonders if Shigure would have done this if she hadn't berated and ridiculed his relationship with Akito. Because
I think eventually, yeah.
Maybe, but like... Because I feel like he wasn't vindictive against her up until that point. It was just a thing of... I don't think so. I think it was just a thing of the...
You think... Okay.
We're similar... And I can out-tool you. Okay. And it's fun.
But I think you're forgetting the important point here. If Shigure does love Akito under any semblance of the word love, what the fuck do you think he thinks about the mother that forced Akito to live as a boy growing up? Like, basically fucked over this kid.
Okay.
Like,
fair point.
Like, do you think he holds even the slightest bit of thought, feeling, or anything for her? If anything, I think he has like actual like visions of like, no. When she dies, I'm going to look over her corpse.
Sure.
And I'm going to smile.
Yeah, definitely no positive feelings for her. I don't know. It felt like it was something where there was a line that was crossed where he had a even if he hated her, right? He had a copacetic dynamic with regards to his ends.
Yeah, totally. This was an impulse kind of reaction.
Right.
He's not a robot. He does feel things.
Right. So it's the... I mean, I'll probably get my revenge on her at some point, but whatever, right? If she is helpful with me getting Akito myself, then that's fine, right? She is. Even if I hate her because of what she did to Akito, our interests are aligned in that she wants to isolate Akito as revenge. I also want to isolate Akito sort of as revenge, but also
away from specific people
for possessiveness, right? Yeah. So that I can be the one that has Akito, right?
Right. And then
this happens, and it's the whoa, hold on now. Like it very much gives me the vibe of like completely different kind of thing, but you have some sort of battle anime, right, where a bad guy kills a good guy, right?
Sure.
And it's like, oh no, tragic death and everything, but the bad guy that killed the good guy is like, I didn't want to do this or whatever. They respected the good guy, right? And then some other bad guy starts bad-mouthing the dead good guy, right? And then that bad guy's like, the fuck are you saying? Like,
are you tarnishing our fight?
Right, exactly. And then they, paste to them or something like that.
Right.
And, because they're like, you stepped out of line, right?
Yeah, for sure. I could definitely see that.
So I feel like that's the kind of vibe that I get from this situation here, and I find it so.
This is nothing new, though. That's the thing, though.
Sure.
I feel like this is something where Shigure has known for a while now, perfectly well how she feels about Akito.
Totally.
But I think I think it's more that, in a weird way, this is just a thing that I feel like this writer does, and it might be all in the adaptation. Okay. But there are times where characters will say lines in the same episode for a completely different story-related thing that then is taken out of its context and applied into a very, very similar type of thing. It's like a thematic
parallel, kind of.
But it's just a line. It's not a theme. It's just a thing there. And I think at this point here, Kyo was having that horror of hearing, I believe it was his mother,
his mom and Toru's mom,
saying know your place, basically.
Oh,
And I think this was Shigure basically saying, know your place. Know thine place.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Bitch. And then basically dropped this hammer on her.
Right.
So that he would shatter her enough to do something stupid.
Right. And he doesn't necessarily, like, a lot of the times I can get kind of disappointed with keikaku dorying anime antagonists or protagonists, for that matter.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, you couldn't know that exactly would happen.
Yeah, I don't think he knows either.
I don't think he knows exactly what would happen, but he knows in general what she will attempt to do and that it will be semi-effective, right?
Yeah, remember the other thing. This is something that's very important. When scenes begin, look for the first line that's dropped. It's very important usually. He basically noted, oh, you found a way to get away from your servants, meaning you are not accountable. No one is watching you.
Right,
you are dangerous right now.
You could do something with your own agency, and
no one could stop you.
And no one could directly stop you until you'd gotten a decent amount along the way with it. Right.
Yeah.
And whether it's going at Akito with a knife or doing something else, right? It's going to be antagonistic towards Akito. That's what Shigure wants, because that'll, send Akito on more of a downward spiral. Shigure can, possess Akito all to himself and all that. So, but the idea, I love that it's something where it really does feel like this was an improvised thing from Shigure, because I feel like that gives us a really fun, in a twisted way, insight into what kind of particular horrible person he is.
Right.
Because as we've gotten to see more of Shigure, it's gone from the, oh, okay, he's Shigure. Oh, he's quirky. Oh, I don't know if I trust him. Oh, he's pretty bad. Oh, he's
really bad.
He's real bad, right?
Okay, he's got his own specific goal, and he will do anything to get it.
Yep.
All right. We've simplified him a lot more, because there were a couple things that were a bit up in the air, and now it's all...
It could have been fuzzy, but now it's like,
the picture is opaque now.
He will do it, and we have a pretty good understanding of what kind of flavor it will look like.
Yeah.
So
here we go.
All right.
And then
Akito.
Yeah, but then we have a three-way confrontation over the corpse of Akira.
Yeah.
And I love that in this moment, this beautifully, terrible scene, I ended up rooting for Obasan because
and it hurts me to...
Because she's the worst, right? But she's actually defending...
She is actually awful.
She's actually defending Akito from a bully here, and I'm like, yes.
And in many ways, over the course of the show, I've hated her more than Akito, right? Because she's the enabler. She's the, she's the one who is older, so she should have more experience, should know better, et cetera, right? But and the thing is that I also understand the hurt that's going into both Akito and Ren into this situation that makes them act the way they do. Yes, Akito, good job. You stand up to her. Great. Ren.
Oh no, the reason why she's standing up to her is because, all the things that she's going to perpetuate over the course of her life that were twisted to fit. Yes.
Right. And Ren, this is now some evidence, right? Even that Akito is actually awful, because she must have, this is all some scheme against me,
right?
To keep me from my husband as he dies, right?
Right. So bring the truth down, the sad, in some ways, yes, fantasy of the curse and the bonds and eternity and which is true.
It's true.
That is not going to last forever.
Nope.
She's experiencing it right now, so of course she lashes out in pain in that way.
But that no one was ever waiting for you. It's like,
that might have gone a bit too far.
Yeah, and
it also might not be true.
Right, exactly. Because obviously she's going way too far with, she's been going way too far. That's been the sum up of their whole dynamic, right?
Yeah.
But
But no, that's how the dynamic works. They were waiting for Akito.
Exactly. Right.
So...
And the problem is that now at this point, no one's going to be waiting for you. Right? And it makes me very... I feel like it's very telling that she even stuck around afterwards. Like, her obsession with Akito was so strong that after she had basically been relegated to be a prisoner here, but she theoretically could leave if she wanted to, right? Like, she could just go somewhere else, not be a part of the Soma, family or whatever, and try and just be far away from this child that she hates, right? But she doesn't.
Yeah. I have a question here.
Yeah?
When Kureno shows up, we're now establishing the setup for the eventual death of this boy here. But Akito immediately is like, hi, I remember Yuki. That was nice. He was the god, I was the god, he was the rat. And, I was, showing off in front of her. But then he says, even though her cruel words still cut me deeply, I could still... ... shows Shigure...
Yeah.
And her hugging.
And specifically the point when Shigure said something to Akito, I believe, that is what made Akito go off the deep end.
Well, no, not necessarily. This is just a moment where Akito needed to be comforted because after this...
Right, but there was that point, though, where...
No, all we know is that Shigure was here with that, but this was something where Shigure was at that point. That was the last time we saw Akito in that backstory with Yuki looking normal.
Right.
Shigure didn't necessarily say anything.
No.
It's just that at that point...
Right. Yeah, right. Doesn't have to be because of Shigure. Could have been, but...
Yeah. And I feel like they're timing this more specifically with the... Akito's father just died very recently.
Oh.
Not necessarily, though.
Oh, no, but that... Yeah, no, I could see that...
But that could be it.
I could see that being it.
Yeah. But what do you think Akito's not unfinished sentence here is?
Well...
No cruel words still cut me deeply. I could still... Something.
Well, so... my impressions of that when I saw this was that Akito was kind of externally processing, right? Like speaking as she was thinking.
Yeah.
And the moment at which she stopped was when she remembered being held by Shigure.
Yeah.
That makes me think that she was distracted by the memory, potentially because there's more to it than what we've seen. Doesn't have to be. It could totally be something where I'm potentially reading it more into something because,
well, we did read a bit into this before, but now we're getting backstory that kind of adds a little bit more context to
I feel like Akito's father dying and Akito's mother saying all the things that she said, that could be the thing that ended up weaponizing Akito in a sense, but I feel like that what really would have made it so that Akito would have completely lost it would have been something extra, because Akito already hated her mother, so having her mother say more horrible things to her, I feel like wouldn't necessarily change anything.
But we didn't get that linear connection there yet, so I don't think it has to be something more. I'm just saying that all we know is that Akito snapped at a point.
No, right. I'm just saying that was the vibe that I got from the going back and showing particular scenes, because like if Akito's thinking of particular scenes in this moment, right? That means that those moments in particular were very important, relevant.
Yeah, to this line here. Even though her cruel words still cut me deeply, I could still blank, blank, blank. So I'm wondering, what do you think was the line here?
I could still rely on people near me to comfort me, or or whatever, right? Like, because if everything that Ren was saying is these bonds aren't real, you're going to be alone, they'll all leave you, etc., etc., and then we end up seeing Akito think back on the bonds that she had at that point in time, right? But she doesn't actually finish the statement.
Yeah, I think it's because at this point, this is something where she's like, oh, right. Shigure actually was helpful here. This was a point where Shigure was maybe showing, like, actual genuine care. And then she goes, when did my world start to fall apart? And flashes through all like the horrible things that she's done, basically.
Right.
And
the thing that it makes me think is that Shigure did something that would seem like comforting, that actually made Akito truly doubt whether these bonds were real, whether she would still have them. And that's why then she starts to lash out, be a lot more possessive, things like that, when previously she had been, playing normally with Yuki and things like that.
Yeah, I don't feel that. I feel like at this point they're actually like trying to bring up the idea that there's a lot more confidence to Akito through this whole thing here. And while it was a lie that was basically something that she held on to, like the fake box, holding,
sure,
Akira in it, it's something that she's okay basically with letting go of the past in that regard, but it's still going to hurt.
Oh yeah, the whole thing of Akito throwing the box,
she's basically learned the lesson that Ren didn't.
Yeah, it felt like that was going to be it. Like, that felt like a very triumphant moment for Akito, and then the problem is, after that, she then stabs Kureno in the back,
Well, in some ways, I think that almost mirrors it with the idea that Ren had this clear moment here, and Akito feels the same way, and realizes, oh shit.
Why didn't I do this earlier?
Well, yeah, like, you've never really given me a genuine, relationship here. You're pitying me. You're basically putting something out here that's fake. It's not what you say it is. And then, in that rush of emotion, she kills him.
Well, and so that's where I think we could potentially have like the most differing perspectives is with regards to Akito killing Kureno here. I didn't get the vibe that Kureno pitied Akito.
Ever?
Like, maybe a little bit at some point, but not really. Like, if you see someone that's hurting, right, and you want to help them, that doesn't necessarily have to be pity.
Well, it's not necessarily love either.
Sure.
I would say the simplest aspect of it is that it's a form of compassion and or sympathy. Right.
And the vibe that I got from when Akito is like saying like, why didn't you ever help me? Why are you saying this now if you only had said this back then? It feels like Akito is basically blaming Kureno in this situation for her own inability to grow. Because back then...
Oh, totally.
Right.
Akito's not in the right here.
No.
Yeah.
But like, the Kureno didn't say these kinds of things back then of like, what if you changed all that stuff, right? And it could be that, he was just not wanting to help Akito, Well, no, I don't think that's it. But that Akito sees it as something that is a negative thing, right? For whatever reason that she thinks Kureno would have done that. Pity, whatever. But it could have just been Kureno thinking, you're not in a place where you would be able to receive the things that I would want to give you, so I'll stick around until I think you are, right?
Kureno was this old when that happened. Like, look at the image here. Kureno's not thinking, I don't think, that complexly about this situation here.
Yeah, of course not.
Right.
It would start as a basic emotion, impulse, decision, whatever, right?
Yeah.
I want to stay with this person. I don't want to leave them alone.
Right. Yeah. So I would say it's a thing of where you're pitying someone, you feel bad for them, so you're going to hang around them. It's the same reason I think why when Shigure is brought up when there are kids over here, Shigure brings up the idea that, oh, well, I think that she's not bad. It just means she should be pitied. And then it shows Kureno here.
Yeah.
All of the Somas should. And then he basically takes that kind of idea here.
I feel like we might have different definitions of pity, but like...
I feel like you seeing it maybe as like a negative thing is why it wouldn't be the right kind of thing here. But pity is, I would say, just an element of feeling basically sorry for somebody, you know.
I feel like that's an element of it, but I feel like there needs to be more to it for it to be pity. Like,
well, then what would it be if you're just feeling sorry for somebody?
That could just be empathy.
No, empathy is way stronger, because empathy basically is meaning that you're going to feel their feelings.
Sure.
Like, you're going to feel
like
the
if someone
exact thing
someone is in a shitty situation, right?
Yeah, that's sympathy. That's closer to sympathy.
Okay, sympathy, right? So
Yeah.
if someone's in a shitty situation, you're like,
and you go, wow, that's a shitty situation.
That's a shitty situation.
Right,
that
right.
sucks, right?
That's sympathy.
Yeah, that's sympathy. And I feel
Yeah.
like the
I think they're almost synonyms. Pity.
I
and
feel like they are
sympathy.
very, very close to each other.
Yeah.
But the difference I feel like with pity is that it's something where pity feels like it has an acknowledgement that basically
It's closer to compassion. See,
Okay.
yeah. Pity is basically the feeling of sorrow and compassion caused by the suffering and misfortune of others. So yeah, it's pity. I think that's a better way to describe it. It's even better than sympathy, because sympathy is just basically acknowledgement. I
Sure.
sympathize with you. I don't
Right.
feel really as much for you necessarily, but I really think that I can acknowledge that situation sucks. Empathy is even the next level above that, as I think that it's the emulation of the feelings. Empathy is basically I'm going to go into the situation with you, and I'm going to feel those exact feelings. And I think that's the closest
Right.
thing to where Kureno is on the positive side, is he came really close to like a feeling of empathy, but he more remained, I would say, detached emotionally. And
Maybe.
thus it's more closer to pity.
Well, so
'Cause I think he felt really like good feelings for Akito.
Akito definitely doesn't like the idea of pity, right?
No.
Most
Very
people,
proud.
Yeah, very proud. Most
Yeah.
people, I would say, can not really like pity when they're in a sucky situation, right?
Oh, okay.
And generally, I would say it has to do with pride, but I feel like it could be other things too. Where
Yeah, I feel like actually that's a
There's
bit of
a-
a generalization to.
Well, I mean, yes, it's absolutely a generalization. There's a connotation with pity that I'm having trouble describing, but the reason why I think it's oftentimes used with a negative connotation as opposed to something like, say, compassion, right? Because compassion,
I pity you.
Right,
See,
exactly.
that's the thing. You're seeing it as a negative thing. I'm just using it as Kureno had compassion, but he didn't have a relationship with Akito.
I
Like
100% disagree on that one.
Yeah. But I'm bringing up more the nuance of if you feel something for somebody and you're there and you basically hold them and you embrace them and stuff like that. The element of basically never because Kureno's curse has been broken for a while.
Yeah, he was the first. Yeah.
And he made the decision to stay in the midst of the curse breaking, basically.
Right.
So I feel like in the confusing emotions and all this stuff that he was overwhelmed with, and this is something that they're using kind of, that lots of people are breaking their curses at this point to have it be brought up again, is that the emotions at that point are rather confusing.
Sure.
But at the very least, Kureno has now the right kind of faculties to be able to see Akito for who she really is. And thus feels, probably for the first time, an element of pity, an element of compassion for this is a shitty situation you're in. Let me sit here and at the very least feel sorrow for you.
Okay.
Now, sorry, go ahead.
Well, so if I were to try and verbalize what I would say is the difference in my mind between pity and compassion, is that pity assumes a lack of capability for the person to do anything about their situation. So, if someone gets like chronically ill, right? You can't really do anything about that. It's just a shitty situation, right? You know, if Akito here is at the mercy of the curse because she can't, you know, she can't really do anything about that. Those are the closest connections that she can have with people. Yeah, that's something outside of her control, and so therefore there could be some pity there, right?
Okay.
And generally, I would say that's where people tend to have a problem with pity, is not just from the pride angle of like, oh, you're saying that I have some issue that I am dealing with or whatever, but it's you're putting me in a position where I don't have power to affect change on my situation, right? It's yes, I pity you. It's not your fault. There's nothing you could do, whatever. As opposed to compassion, where it's the more neutral, whatever your situation is, it's a sucky situation. I feel for you.
I feel like it's just synonyms, and it's just, you've heard pity used in a really weird context a lot, where people are using it as a pride thing, like to be like, oh, I pity you. Well, and literally, it's just the same thing as compassion of saying, hey, it's not your fault. It's just how you say it. It's the difference of like in Good Will Hunting, where it'd be like, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. That's literally pity. That's literally pity.
I would disagree.
He's not saying you can't. He's not saying you can or can't change anything. He's basically just saying, hey, man, it's okay. It's okay.
If they were,
and that's I think a thing that could be called compassion. That could be called pity. That could all the whole thing there. But I'm yeah, it's neither here nor there in my mind, but I get what you're saying.
Okay.
Pity has a connotation of it that has negative aspects to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in this situation here, with why Akito stabbed Kureno, right? It's something that I understand why Akito did it, because she's blaming Kureno basically for her problems. What would you say is your perspective on it? Because I feel like
I just gave that in the very beginning of the discussion here. My bad. I can say it again. The main thing is that when Akito saw that, oh, this is fake. This whole thing here with my father was something that I had clung to here, and now I'm unraveling all the things that were basically the things that I've held on to and treasured. I that's all I had. I basically used that whatever was available to survive and to get by in this whole thing. So I'm blameless, right? I'm okay, right? And then he does hey, it's okay. It's okay. But you can start to change now. So let's change. And then basically says, oh, if you stay in this environment, these things will crush you.
Right.
And then she's like, well, wow, okay. So you say this now when I've gone through all this shit and I held on to the only things I could to survive. You, the person that loved me, the person that was there for me, you were probably the only person that could have actually, like, basically helped bring me out of this. She absolutely overtly fixates on, like you're saying, like a blaming situation of like, you could have done this earlier, but like this wasn't genuine. Basically calling into question, that's like the quote unquote kindness of yours. I like that she doesn't even call it love or what have you, because it's not. I would call it pity or compassion, whatever you wanna call it there. A form of emotional availability to be a shoulder to cry on, basically.
Okay.
And probably a little bit more than that on some level. But then Kureno's situation is one of emotional stuntedness. So he's not really giving too much, I would say, into this dynamic. And thus Akito is half right in that it's I'm going to only focus on the parts where you could have done this better, and thus I deem you as, worthy of being killed now because you fucked me up in this way. Obviously, Akito is missing out on the other half of things where Kureno was actually probably pretty helpful in that regard as being someone to lean on. But that element of a faux love, a faux kindness or what have you, I feel like is absolutely a a thing that Akito sees that as a form of, oh, well, then if that's the case, what you're doing now, where you're saying we should change now, you've betrayed me here.
Right. It's so maybe it's just on the whole pity thing that we see things differently, because it feels very poetic that Akito does this, because it feels like this is the ultimate test that she had, right? Theoretically, if Akito had been able to be open to changing here, then maybe the curse on all of the rest of the Somas would be broken here, and maybe like Toru, you don't even need to do anything else. Your job's been done, And Kureno is actually the one who helps Akito break the curse, right? Mm-hmm. But because Akito basically reached the point where I feel like she truly believed she was alone at this point, the whole thing with, like her father, yeah, that was a lie the whole time. She found out probably a while ago.
Well, she looked in it a while ago.
Right.
And just was like, oh, there's got to be some kind of special power or something to it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure, so I hold on to it even though it's empty.
Right.
But then she has the moment where, confronted with the mother, because of her own hatred for her mother, mm-hmm. she is able to let go of it. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
And in that moment, she is alone. She has nothing, no one, etc. But that might actually be okay. Right. And then the one person that has actually been with her through this comes along, and Akito's like, no, you haven't given, like, you've been there, but I've still had this problem. Fake. So you're another fake. I can only trust myself, basically, and so I'll get rid of you, because if you're a fake and you have presented yourself as being this person real. That I can depend on, that can be true. Real, then that's the ultimate betrayal.
Right.
And so now that I deem you worthy of death.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so
exactly. And I just think it's something where it brings itself all the way back together to the idea that these people who are around Akito don't necessarily love or care for Akito in the way that would be a genuine form of love or care. It's a form of basically they're there, it'll be okay, but it's not actually giving of themselves anything. And this is why I bring up the idea of why I said that he wasn't in an actual relationship with Akito.
Okay.
It's that in relationships there has to be a give and a take. It mm-hmm. is not just basically I am here, I am there. Like, I have basically allowed myself to be the receptor, basically, for your feelings. You have to show feelings. You have to give feelings as well. And I feel like Kureno gave some of that. But Akito judged it as being not enough. It's basically I didn't receive it, it was half-baked, it was fake, or what have you. Regardless of whether or not it was or not, I feel like that's something that Akito has a fair assessment enough, kind of, to be able to say this and have it actually, like, resonate. Regardless of what the effect was of it, I just feel like that's and Akito's in a very emotional state right now, so might not be seeing things clearly. But I feel like that's a pretty decent observation, I would say. And it's maybe a bit of a overtly general thing to say that, they weren't in, like, he wasn't in a relationship with her, but I'm meaning more in the standpoint of, like, being actually emotionally, like, available for Akito versus just being like a shoulder to cry on.
So this is where I think. So my perspective on this is that, like you said, the whole thing with relationships, there's give and take, right? Really good. Yeah, and that's a fundamental aspect of relationships. Mm-hmm. If Kureno has written Akito a blank check of what he will give Akito, mm-hmm. and Akito is kind of constantly cashing on that check, mm-hmm. right? It could be very easy for it to then seem like Kureno is giving nothing because there is no change, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah,
it's a constant thing.
Yeah.
All you see is just this person's here, mm-hmm. but are you actually giving anything to me?
Yeah, and that's Yeah, exactly. Because I'd say from the more like third person omniscient objective perspective, it's that he's not taking anything.
Right. And
that's the part where he's actually not allowing this to be an equal relationship, or even to be I would say a healthy relationship.
But let's be real. Akito is not offering anything.
No, but that's the thing, is that it's not a relationship at that point. All he is basically a pet, a tool, again tying into the idea that people in this story use each other in unhealthy, semi-abusive to very abusive relationships where people are more being used for what they can give to that person, but they never give anything back. And some of the characters in this story, especially Toru, for instance, see it as being bad to request or take anything from other people. And thus the pride angle and all that there.
Okay.
Because Kureno was compared a lot to Toru.
Yes.
Like, in some ways, he's eerily like Toru. Mm-hmm. And in that instance here, I think we're getting another example of that, of where that aspect of, oh, I'm just here for you, I'm here for you, I'm here for you, I'm here for you, I'm here for you. And then it's like, wait, but now you want something of me? After all this time when you basically said, you don't need to do anything, it's okay, you're okay, basically.
I'm unclear which side of the relationship you're talking about.
Kureno and Akito.
So
Kureno at this point here basically said, but we can change Akito. We can. But this entire basis of the relationship, in my perspective here, has been that Kureno has said basically, you don't need to do anything. This is okay. It's okay. I'm here for you. I'm here for you. Basically saying, you don't need to change. All this is just me being in service to you. It's in some ways Kureno kind of choosing to go back to the curse and be there as only just everything in service of their god, like a form of worship, but not actually having a real relationship. And then saying later, oh, let's change. And it's wait, but wasn't the whole basis of our relationship one where you just give, and I take? Why are you... And that's why I see it as a very toxic thing. It's not a real relationship. And of course, once Akito is demanded of anything, or even slightly requested of anything, how dare you? How dare you?
Right.
Stab.
Kureno's dead, yeah.
Right. And I feel like this is a dramatization of something that happens a lot in relationships, which is a person will basically, in service of love or kindness, will basically just give to people, not ever request or take anything back, and then get confused when way later in the relationship they're like, hey, can you give something into this dynamic? And the person's like, we've never done that. Why are you asking that of me? And it's like, holy fuck, they never had an actual relationship to begin with because that person was never really willing to give anything when asked. So, yeah. It's just a form of something in toxic relationships I see quite a lot.
I feel like there's a big difference between saying that they didn't have a healthy relationship and saying Kureno's feelings for Akito aren't real.
No, I'm not saying the feelings aren't real. No, I'm just saying that Kureno had a relationship that was essentially fake. That was the fake part here. If I'm messing up here, it's more that Akito basically questioned the feelings, the emotion.
Yeah, totally right. Akito,
but the structure of the relationship was one-sided. It was not a two-way relationship in that regard.
Yes.
And thus I don't see it as a fully valid relationship, and thus I feel it's...
I don't think Akito and Kureno have a great relationship either.
Right. But I feel like that's why it makes so much sense that Akito kills Kureno here.
Totally.
Because this is the first moment that Kureno basically asked of anything in the relationship. And it ties perfectly with Toru going through her own evolution here as she's realizing that she can lean on people, that she's able to ask for things, that she's not being selfish, that's just being normal. And Kureno being the first, death basically in this story.
Yeah.
Well, right, because we've had characters die in backstories.
Sure.
Those don't really count because they're like a part of the past, basically. Right. But in the actual plot, a character killed Kureno here, and it was in some ways because of him moving in that direction that Toru's moving.
Kureno was probably waiting that entire time for a moment in which Akito would maybe be open to the idea of this, right? Yeah. And so then he's like, after all this time, I've waited so long, I've been there for you, all right, we can change.
Yep.
Right? And then, well, turns out, you waited, you saw a decent opportunity, dice didn't come up well for you.
Nope.
Sorry.
No.
That's and the fact that we got all this wonderful focus with Kureno and like, established the crush that Uo had on him and he liked her and all of that stuff, and then you have this happen. It's just like,
fuck, man.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
And it just turned out really bad for you.
Yep.
The bird going over to Uo was just so sad and just because he's the rooster zodiac, but it's very symbolic. It could have been him.
Yeah, either way works wonderfully.
Yeah.
And it was definitely some salt in the wound to cut to that after him being stabbed.
Yeah. But were you just exhausted?
Yeah.
I feel like that, maybe I'm just looking for things to reinforce a little bit of my theory here. But the idea that if you were to be someone that just gives, and you never request of anything in the relationship, this is kind of the inevitable. You just get exhausted and you burn out and you die.
Right.
Or the relationship dies, basically. This felt like something where Uo perceives in her little serendipitous moment here what actually happened. Even though this was just just a little bird coming over here.
Kureno is definitely the parallel for Toru, so having him die here makes a ton of sense. Having one of Toru's friends who also cared a lot about Kureno to then see this and be like, oh yeah, this must be what it is. It shines a light pretty nicely on Toru in the idea of like, hey, this could end up happening to you either literally or as the figurative end if you don't end up being able to change yourself.
Yep. And then to drive the point home even further, Toru is the cliffhanger with her saying she'd like to tell Kyo something. How many times has this happened in the show? I feel like I could count on one hand her basically like wanting to have a one-on-one. I want to initiate something specifically to tell you.
Yep.
Not hey, here's an update of school, or, oh, how are things going with all your stuff? No, I need to tell you something, not ask you, not inquire about you. This is Toru's about to make an I statement, and she's about to maybe even declare a desire or a want.
Something that kind of demands a response. And so...
And he turns and I think he's ready to listen.
Yeah, he might be. It's something where the ultimate crippling factor in this up until now and in other relationships that I feel like were parallel to this is, or just in real life, is that if you don't value the thing that you could give to someone, then you don't let... then you're shooting the relationship in the foot. In the same way that not the same way, but in a similar-ish way.
Yeah.
Where with Akito and Kureno was never able to get anything in that sense from Akito because Akito was never able to give it. The not being willing to give it could be for a variety of different reasons, and they could be for ones that can easily slip under the radar. Yes, it could be because you are so self-obsessed and think that you're the center of the universe and actually, potentially, maybe God, that you don't allow that to happen. Cool.
It could be because Kureno never asked.
It could be because Kureno never asked. It could be because when the person does start to ask, you devalue it and don't give it because you care about the person.
True.
Why would you give shitty food to somebody who's hungry, right? But sorry, all I have is shitty food, so I guess I'm just not going to give you anything because I certainly wouldn't want to hurt you, right? There could be something in there that hurts you. So I'm just gonna keep it all to myself. And that can even get down to the point where they're telling you, no, I need this from you. It's not a problem. It's not a burden. It's actually the thing that gives me life.
Yeah.
But maybe you're just not willing to listen.
Yeah.
Looks like Kyo's willing to listen.
I think
I'm
he's
keeping
ready.
my fingers crossed because I don't know if I can go through another debate like we had from the previous episode to this one.
Yeah, we followed up with it a little in Kyo's mind here, but we didn't go through the Toru side of things.
And if anything,
So-
the thing that does make me nervous is that we still don't know what the things were that each of them recognized or realized or whatever. So theoretically,
Right.
that could still
get
get in the way here.
We have about like 7 variables in play, and we need to see how they all line up. Because there's things that make sense to line up certain ways, but then there are other things where we're like, wait, but does it? Okay, so we'll wait and see.
Yep.
But yeah, I want a Kyo Toru focused episode.
That would be wonderful.
Please. Also, Hero's curse is broken. Just casual thing that happened.
That's cool.
Please let Kisa be next. Just
Yeah.
let Kisa be next. That would be wonderful to have. Just to have that would be really sweet. And if this is what's happening like rapidly, we're gonna hit a point where they're probably gonna need to have 2 curses broken in the same episode. Like there's not many episodes.
Oh
left.
yeah, no, definitely.
Like there's like 13 in the season.
I feel like we're
This
kind
is
of
the
building up
halfway
for
finale.
we're going to have curses be broken one at a time, up until like the end of the show, and then we're gonna have some moment where like the rest of them all break.
Kyo's
at once,
will be the final
Yeah,
one.
Kyo will be
Very
one of the
Beauty and
final
Beast
ones,
style,
probably.
you know.
Yep. I think Yuki's will probably also be either final or very close to final.
Yeah.
Because there are certain ones where it's like I would have expected them to break by now. Like
It's the main
Rin and
3
Hatsuharu,
boys,
but,
really. It's Toru. Sorry, not Toru. Shigure, Yuki, and Kyo. Yeah. Those are the 3 main boys. So
will
like,
Shigure's curse ever be broken? That's a really good question.
well, in some ways, Akito is the other final one.
Well, yeah,
really.
I feel like that, and I think I mentioned this in one of the previous discussions, but I feel like the most poetic way for this to go for Akito and Shigure is that Akito breaks the curse and Shigure is left alone. Like Shigure doesn't actually break the curse; it's something that Akito does, and that way,
Damn.
Akito is able to change. Shigure isn't.
Damn.
But
Yeah. Like, I feel like that's very possible. I feel like, though, this is the kind of story where we actually get happy endings for everybody, though. Like, I feel like thematically, though, that's why Toru's the main character.
yeah,
Like, everyone deserves the sunshine. Everyone deserves sunshine. Everyone deserves love. And, some people just haven't experienced it yet.
and some people just murdered somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh boy, y'all. We are
boy.
in the second half of the final season of Fruits Basket.
Yep.
And it's a doozy. So y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get an early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb,
I'm Jacob.
and we'll see you all
Next time.